from Monday, Eskom customers will pay more for electricity after the National Energy Regulator approved 12.74% tariff hike for the ailing power utility. At the same time, the presidency this week released the 18-month update on implementation of the Energy Action Plan. The plan's primary focus is to address, among others, enhancing accessibility to the current power supply and to expedite private investments in generating capacity. Now, to help us unpack what all this means for the ordinary consumer of electricity is FirstSource Money Executive Director, Redge Nkosi. Redge, thank you so much for joining us this evening on News at Prime. As the old saying goes, when it rains, it pours, right? It seems like there's a storm right now. Electricity and fuel prices increasing in the coming month, which is just in a couple of days. Let's look at that 12% that was approved by Nersa last year. Now, this can't be good news for any citizen when in this battling economy.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think we're in a situation where we're going to be experiencing continued increases in the prices of power for quite a number of months or perhaps years to come as a consequence of the government policy of trying to solve, according to them, the challenges of power. And we're already, as you know, as a country caught up in high inflation, high interest rates. And now, on top of that, we're going to have to add to fork out another 12% or so, put it at 13% increase in the energy sector. This really is going to get the economy down, but frankly, because the consumption would decrease as a consequence of disposable income going to utilities. And this, again, is not just going to affect this consumption. Essentially, the GDP as well may begin to collapse as a result of this.
So it certainly will have a dominoes effect. And I mean, as we look at it, we have less and less electricity, but more load shedding. But it still seems that we're being charged even more for the less that we have. How does the regulator even justify this?
Well, essentially, there isn't any justification, but they're looking at the costs. You know, Eskom does submit to them numbers that shows or that tells them that, look, there's need for them to increase prices because they have to pay for this, pay for that, and so on. Essentially, the bondholders, people we owe. So we're going to be exposed to this for quite a number of years because the government policy has essentially failed, where they think government does not have money, therefore it has to ask, private sector to come in and support development in the country, power generation itself. Okay. That way, like in many other countries which have gone the route that we're going, energy is going to be very, very expensive. It's going to be unaffordable, not so long from now. So we should brace ourselves for some of the hardest times in an economy that essentially has failed to grow. So it's double whammy for the citizens. And unfortunately, Nersa does seem to agree with Eskom and indeed government as a whole that there's need for us to pay more because Eskom has to pay for its bills as well.
I guess in some cynical way, we should be grateful that it is a 12.75% increase because initially Eskom had applied for a 32% tariff increase for the 2023-2024 financial year end. Added to that, another 22.52% for 2024 and 2025. Is it safe to say that Eskom is trying to recover its hundreds of billions of debts from citizens who just quite frankly cannot afford this?
Yeah, firstly, you're right. I think you said we have to be cynical a bit by saying we're a bit lucky that we have this 13% or 12 point whatever. Yes, you're right, because Eskom has been essentially asking for an arm and a leg so as to pay the high debt that Eskom has. So, Eskom also perhaps doesn't have a choice because government says, well, you have to, to ensure that people pay for this. So Eskom is essentially responding to the central government's policy or agenda of ensuring that money must be extracted from the poor. So the poor will continue to suffer. And remember, you cannot get a rebate so easily. Meanwhile, big companies will get rebates from this. Okay, so we will continue to suffer as poor citizens. Meanwhile, the rich will continue to get a bit richer because they have the capacity to intervene in a range of ways. So South Africa is caught up, like I said, in a vicious circle that is a consequence of very, very poor policy. First, of ensuring that private sector is the key to generation. All these ideas from the president or the commission that's there that, look, let's allow people to generate power and sell that power back to Eskom. I mean, they're going to generate power at some cost, high cost, and sell it to us at higher cost. So, like I said, this is not going to end now. And it's going to be very bitter for the rest of us.
And while it is being vicious right now and viciously felt as well, according to the President's feedback on the Energy Action Plan, there has been some progress in the last 6 months with some achievements that have been made, like the return of the 3 units at Kusile. But when can we actually start feeling the effects of this progress?
In my view, it's not clear at all. Even this report, it's very likely that not all of it is going to be achieved in terms of the future aspects of it. So in terms of relief, it may take quite a number of years. Remember, we were promised a while back that give us 18 months, things will be fine. Give us another, so many months, things will be fine. It has been month after month or year after year, promise of that nature. Nothing has come to fruition. Today we're in the same load shedding as before. Some units are coming on board, of course, but then what? The load shedding still continues, isn't it? So with regard to prospects for us, getting a bit better, I think it's anyone's guess. Quite frankly, what we get from Eskom may not or from the government as a whole may not necessarily be true.
That certainly is the felt reality and experience on the ground. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and sharing your insights with us. That was FirstSource Money Executive Director, Redge Nkosi.